now because, as you know, I post these. So welcome everyone to our December webinar right before the holidays. Thanks for taking the time to come in. I know it's a bit of a busy time. So I'm going to try and take up as little of your time as possible and just really quickly move us through an update on mostly the experiments today. So as you know, we have 3 experimental tracks and they're all moving quite quickly at the moment. So I just wanted to quickly run you through where each of them are and then what to expect in the new year. So I'll just dive right in and then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. But of course, if in the meantime on any of the experiments you have any questions, you can feel free to let me know. So first thing is, after a little bit of a procurement process, we have brought on the consultant for the docking station that we mentioned on the last call. So I think I've mentioned it before, but the docking station, the name is a little bit up for debate at the moment. This was just a term that was used to describe this idea of interesting projects or businesses who are potentially not investor ready at the moment, being able to dock in and take advantage of the vast expertise and connections that are in Geneva and therefore act as a bit of a pipeline builder to get more bankable projects around impact in the system. And so, you know, that concept has been being explored by a team who has a few people from the finance community, a few people from the development community. And what we found was that there was a pretty big disconnect between how the two communities saw how this might look, which is, we think, where a lot of richness lies, but also we needed a kind of a translator to bring that together. So Branduza runs what's called the Ground Up Project that focuses a lot on matchmaking between projects in the developing world primarily and investors. And so she has worked in this space for a long time and has a lot of experience and is kind of the perfect person to translate between the development community and the finance community to get what we think could be a viable concept developed and some immediate next steps. So Branduza will be with it's a pretty short contract, about 2 months. She's going to start by interviewing all the team members of the docking station team and then some stakeholders, some private equity firms, investors, other people, some social entrepreneurs, other people who we think might be potential users of the platform, and then develop a concept note. And what will be included in that concept note is essentially a bit of a stock taking of what already exists, and then who the potential audiences would be and what available knowledge and resources are there to develop this concept. Recommendations of tools that the docking station could offer to social entrepreneurs or to investors. This is still up for discussion. A preliminary assessment of what would be required for the docking station to be successful and any potential risks, and then recommendations for kind of initial pilot activities or a potential rollout plan, and then what the immediate next steps would be. So this is going to come together very quickly. Branduza has interviewed the leads of the docking station, which is Fabio and Nadia. Fabio from SFG and Nadia from the SDG Lab. And she's done that before the holidays and then is in the process of booking interviews with the people who are on that team. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that that is happening. Of course, this is a broader collaboration. So if you do think you have something that you want to add, you can either, you know, shoot her an email or contact me, or we can set you up with an interview. But that process is underway and will happen in early January. And then there'll be a refinement. We're also going to have, I think, 2 team meetings with the docking station team. And those will, of course, be open to everyone in the collaboration as well. So those will probably happen, one at the end of January to go over some of the initial interview findings and some of the initial ideas. And then there'll be a draft concept note by the end of February, where there'll be a larger meeting where people can give feedback, and then we'll start to move things forward. So that's the trajectory and timeline for the docking station. I'll maybe just pause here if anyone has any questions about that process.
Yes.
Hi, this is Risto. Just a quick comment on the different tracks that we are launching right now, I would definitely open up for everybody, because kind of the selection process was a little bit confusing. The idea was very, very early. So I would open up for the opportunity for the others to join as well at this stage when it's getting more real.
Absolutely. And I think, it's something we're going to discuss more in 2019, as well as kind of the different roles of individuals. Some people want to act more as advisors for multiple. Some want to be very involved in one or the other. And we want to, that we're hoping this can be a fluid collaboration. So as you said, Risto, there was no rigor to how people kind of selected where they wanted to participate. So of course, anyone is welcome to participate. So just shoot me an email at any time if you'd like to be included in any of these processes, and we'll continue to keep you in the loop. Jean, your hand is raised, and feel free to.
Yes, I just want to have an idea of what is the collaboration between this project and the links with the social stock exchange we are intensively discussing within Sustainable Finance Geneva. Is it something which are coordinated, or it's two different projects?
So it's two different projects at the moment, but a couple things on that. So I think the concept is slightly different. However, we recognize they're in the same realm. So what we did was we took some of the initial, because SFG has been involved in helping us to draft the terms of reference for the consultant, we made sure that it was complementary to the work that has already been done under the social stock exchange. And then also we've kind of put points in the contract, in Brunduse's contract, for her to check in with Bertrand and to also ensure that anything that comes is really aligned. And also, to be frank, some of what we see coming out of the docking station also looks like it could be of interest or very complementary to some of the work in blended finance. So we've made it really clear that it should be building on various initiatives that are already underway, and find a niche, or recommend that we loop ourselves in with those more closely. But yeah, it's certainly a consideration, and especially the social stock exchange. All the work that's gone into that, we've considered that as stuff to build on, not to replicate.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Any other comments on docking station? And then I'm going to move to blended finance. Okay. So the blended finance, the team, I put this up so that you know that there is a concept note that exists on the platform at the moment. It's pretty rich. I think it's around 20 pages. So the leads of this work are John Tidmarsh, John Fairhurst, and Julie Huynh. And they're really starting to make some progress on the vision. And however, so we have the vision. However, what we're working on now is getting it into more kind of shareable, really clean messages that we can use to engage potential partners and supporters to start moving ahead into hopefully a phase of building this. So I put this up. It's a bit of a middle time to put this up. You're welcome to go on and add some comments into that concept note that's a Google Doc if you have ideas. But we'll do a more kind of in-depth or comprehensive send around of the documents when we have them into more shareable material, because we're working on the theory of change right now. We're finalizing the environment scan. And so while the kind of vision is there, there's still some background and supporting info that needs to be added. But again, as this is collaborative, you are more than welcome at any time to add ideas. John, I'm not sure if you want to say anything here about the high level idea. I know you're a bit, your voice is a bit sore at the moment, but I could also just give a few words. But if you did want to jump in, let me know.
Go ahead for the time being. I'll come back if I need to.
Okay, sounds good. So the general concept is a blended finance center in Geneva that would facilitate bringing the various communities who are potential participants in blended finance transactions, primarily philanthropy and public capital, the finance industry, and then development actors who are looking for impact, together to implement blended finance instruments. And a big part of this is looking at what Convergence has done at a very global and macro level, and landing it in a community that has a lot of these actors, in the same vicinity, in order to accelerate implementation of blended finance instruments. And so what is included in that is kind of a networking and knowledge sharing component, but also raising a design fund that would allow for those upfront design costs of blended finance instruments that can be a deterrent in them taking off, because it does cost money to structure what's still a pretty new area of finance. And then also a conference that would, again, bring these communities together, and some consultancy services. So that's the high level concept in a very few words, but the idea is to try and, as I said, kind of tackle some of the barriers to blended finance, but specifically in a community where a lot of the actors are already present. And that's why we feel Geneva has something special to offer to this space, and in particular to build on the work that's been done at the global level. So we're looking at kind of a bottom-up approach as opposed to the kind of top-down. John, anything? Sorry, again, I know you're sick, but if there's anything else you want to say.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, no, I think that was good. Thanks, Callie. I mean, I guess it's about making a space where these communities can come together, but to meet, to co-design, to launch and promote vehicles which advance the SDGs. So, around the theory of change, it's about, how we can bring people and ideas together, how we can have the right resources to co-design and support winning ideas, and then the launching and the promoting of those ideas, and by extension of Geneva as a place where these things happen. So I think probably a lot of people on the call probably immediately start thinking, gosh, there are a lot of crossovers with the other experiments, and I think that's great news. I think, Callie, you're doing a great job in making sure that we're all working in parallel and looking for other bridges between what everyone's doing. So again, I look forward to having something in a shape that we can start having a much more, even greater collaborative co-designing of this center in the new year.
Which is a great segue into, so what I'll be working on a lot over the holidays is taking all the great content that's in that initial note and getting it into really kind of sharp documents, sharp messaging that we can share. So if, like I said, if you do have comments, you're welcome, but we will have the opportunity to look at some things that are a little bit more refined. But this is part of the collaboration. We're doing this together. So that, again, you can find on the web platform, and it looks just like it shows in the picture here. And you can access the link from there. So that's that. And then I just wanted to also mention that, as you know, I think if you looked at the last webinars, we hosted a blended finance breakfast at the World Investment Forum in collaboration with UNDP and UNCTAD. And that breakfast, it was a super event. It was really, really great. It was about 40 to 50 people who were quite hand-selected working on blended finance. And we brought them together to talk about, again, some of these challenges and opportunities. And the report is now published. It's quite an in-depth report. So if you're interested in finding that, that's also on the Knowledge platform under, it's under previous events, but I also just sent it out in an email to everyone. So you can access that there. There's some really good information about products that have actually been tried and what they found. So from R20, from Blue Orchard, from Lombard Odier, from Peace Nexus and PPT. So there's, some really great examples of blended finance in practice. And what they came across. So again, that can be accessed online or in the email that I just sent out. So before I move on, any questions about the blended finance work and how it's progressing? Okay. So the commodities work, this is again focused on sustainable commodities exchanges. And there have been a few conversations that have happened since the workshop in June. But it has been slow because we're finding some pushback from the commodities exchanges community, particularly the UNCTAD held an event with at the World Investment Forum, and they definitely felt that this might be a sensitive area to pursue. So what we're going to do is on Thursday, myself, Jean, Tiffany, and Virginie from BNP. So Tiffany from UNCTAD, Jean from Cancer, Virginie from BNP Paribas. We're going to sit down and do a bit of a stock taking of where things are at and kind of readjust, because we're wondering if we were maybe a bit aggressive in what could actually be done. And Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative is thinking that maybe some awareness raising is needed. However, there has been some movement, so we're just taking a look at that. So I don't have much to report, but I will in January on where we get to. But that meeting is happening on Thursday. So if you have contacts in commodities or you've spoken to people in this space, you're more than welcome to join us at BNP to have that discussion. Any questions about commodities or comments? Okay. That's it for the kind of I am going to talk a little bit about what to expect in January after the Q&A. But I just wondered if anyone had any questions or comments about any of the experiments before we go into the holidays. And then January, I think, is going to be quite a busy month that I'll talk about in a second. So first of all, anything about the experiments generally or specific to one experiment? Great. I must have been clear. Okay, so what to expect in January. So January is, as we all know, a busy month. Starts off slow and then gets very busy because of Davos. So we're still kind of exploring who will be in Davos and if we should be drawing links between individuals. So if you are attending Davos, a couple of you have already let me know you are. Let me know so that I can try and, again, make some links. We're still not certain if we're going to go from the SDG lab perspective, but there will be other people around, so please do let me know if you plan to be there. So what our plan is actually to have our meeting after Davos so that anyone who was there and particularly working on finance issues can report back. But also because right now I'm working on the 2019 plan with the conveners being SFG, SDG Lab, and IISD, just all the acronyms. But I'm working with those three on the plan because, as I just mentioned, we have been talking about roles and allowing people to assume or kind of fluidly move between different roles without feeling, any too strong of expectations or misaligned expectations. If people only have a certain amount of time to give, we want it to be known that that's okay, and there is a space for more advisory and feedback versus really kind of actively building. And then there's also a space for those who want to actively build. So with the conveners, we're gonna define a straw man of what we think that could look like, what we think when we think the next workshop could be, and what the trajectory of kind of events until the summer would look like. For example, I know that everyone has said that they would like another opportunity to meet more socially, so we'll probably do something around that. Likely have a workshop where we get some of the people that we're missing to give feedback on some of these concepts that will be more developed, likely in March or April, because that's looking like the timeline. So essentially that whole timeline is going to get sketched out over the holidays and then the first week of January. And then we're going to bring it back to you at the end of the month after Davos for just your feedback on what you think. At that point, we'll also probably have more material from Blended Finance to look at and some initial findings or comments from the docking station. So it will be a great time to check back in. We're also investigating getting a resource who is more dedicated to this initiative, and it's still to be confirmed, but we do think we have some resources for that. So it is possible that in the first few months of the new year, we'll be bringing on someone to replace Ravenna, because Ravenna's contract has ended, and I don't think Ravenna was able to make the call, but I wanted to thank her for all of her work because she's been, instrumental in getting this going, particularly in the mapping. And then that's the other thing, is we'll be finalizing the mapping. So there's going to be a public consultation of the mapping and its narrative that will go around, because that's a story we're going to tell about all the great work that's happening in Geneva. So it is going to be a busy start of 2019, and some of these kind of getting our wheels spinning that are moving that we were trying to do over the fall are now really starting to take shape. So there's going to be a lot more opportunity for giving feedback and participating. So that's what we're looking at for January. So please, that meeting on the 29th, it's a webinar 29th at 3 p.m. Please book that. I'm going to be sending a calendar request next because it will be an important checkpoint for all of us. So with that, I'll just open it up a final time for any comments, and if not, we'll sign off for the day.
Yeah. Kali?
Yes.
May I just ask a question? I was just on, during the call, I've been looking at the different websites, and to be honest, I'm kind of between the Slack channel, the 2030 website, the SDG, the Geneva Sustainable Finance Collaboration website. I'm kind of a bit lost about, where the coherence is and how each fits together, and where are we going with this communication?
So the finance collaboration website, so Geneva 2030 is a public website. I mean, you're welcome to go on it, but it doesn't really speak to the finance collaboration. Finance collaboration website is where you'll get all the information about events that are coming up, the various experiments, what's happening. This is the website and the password. It's a private site because it's for everyone. Everything is linked into the Slack if you want to leave real-time comments. The reason we didn't do everything on Slack is because we did get a lot of feedback that some of the people, particularly in banks, can't access it. And also aren't really comfortable using it. So I monitor it constantly. So if there is, if you have questions or you want to share things, I also, if people share things, I try and send it out in email updates and things as well, if it's something that needs to go to the whole group. So you can feel free to write things in the Slack, and we can talk as teams if we want to be more strict about using it. But where you'll get all the information, and I do keep it up to date, is these are the same website. They go to the same place, but these two URLs, that's where you'll find all the information.
Great. Okay, thank you.
And, the experiments tab, when you click that and you go to your experiment, that's where it will have the most up-to-date link to the Google Doc and that sort of thing. And then if you go to events and past events, that's where you can download all these webinar slides and those types of things. Maybe I'll do a little refresher also in the new year, so everyone has a rundown of how to use the platform.
Great. That'd be great.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I just wanted to wish you all a very happy holiday and also some well-deserved rest. We have been really overwhelmed by all your participation and enthusiasm for working together. We know it's not easy, and everyone speaks different languages and wants to see different things come to fruition, but we've just been so encouraged by the Geneva community and how much everyone has wanted to work together. So, thank you so much. And we look forward to taking, I think, the very great ideas we developed in 2018 and actually working to make them a reality in 2019. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all in 2019.
Thank you, Kelly.
And
Good.
thanks for your work, Kelly.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Bye,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Tomorrow,
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks. Happy holidays.
for commodities tomorrow, it's at BNP. That's true.
Thursday, John.
Thursday, excuse me. Thursday, it's BNP.
Yeah, it'll be at BNP. I have to just confirm the room, but I'm going to send it. I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye, everyone.